All right. Okay, we are live. Yep, it says live, so we are live. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you have a point, so.
Right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order, Tuesday, August 20th, Land and Waters, committee meeting. Roll call, Kim is asked to be excused. I have not heard from Kim, so he may be coming in shortly. With that, if you guys had a chance to look at the agenda, I'll need approval or repair, motion to approve or repair the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda. Second motion.
Motion by Nick, second by Derek, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Approval and repair of last month's minutes. Everybody had a chance to take a look at those. If you see anything that needs to be added or changed, always I'll look for a motion. Morning, Tim.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. I'll second it.
Motion by Nick, second by Derek, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We'll move on to public comment. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak? Anybody from the public that wishes to speak? Anybody from the public that wishes to speak? If hearing none, we'll move on to department reports. Davina.
So, first, Andrew Wick has left our office. His last day was August 9th. He took a position in the city of Green Bay, erosion control specialist, I believe, with a $10,000 bump in pay and closer home. So, I am working with Jeremy right now to see if we can do some reclass so that we can make sure that we retain the employees that we have, because we have one of the best LCCs or LWCDs in the state. So trying to work on something with that during the budget time. Animal waste storage permits, Bodo and Grandview Dairy got a manure storage permit for feed storage expansion and runoff control systems. So that's just part of them getting into the WPDS compliance program. I believe they're getting funding through EQIP, I believe, for that. So they're working with NRCS on that. Travis is here for the nutrient management discussion, but go ahead and do your farm lighting.
So 10 walkovers were completed, total of 840 acres. 13 were full compliance, 2 with compliance schedules. Compliance schedules were consisting of 5-foot tillage setbacks and some gully erosion. Additional walkovers were started, but with the corn and other crops in the fields, doesn't pay to walk and see the ground. Those will be finished once the crops come off. We have 32 farmland preservation participants that have yet responded. At the letters drafted, those will be mailed out to get those scheduled. I think the last time we had about 60, so 30 have called in scheduled. This is the last meeting. The nutrient management farmer education reimbursement is being finalized. Gets submitted to DACCAP for repayment reimbursement for the participants. And then also in July with the NMFE funding, we hosted or worked with DACCAP and XCS WAPAC and Elma Farms to do the depth of bedrock and Peninsula Fiber to depth of bedrock verification, go through the process since it's been finalized. So what everyone's going to have to do is submit if they're going to be verified depth of bedrock.
That was rough.
Yep.
Yeah.
45 participants.
On the hottest day. Okay, so nothing for public health and nothing for chapter 39. Sanitary We're actually having a meeting today about the new sanitary program that we're working on trying to get, since ours will be null and void by, I think, the end of the year. Soil, septic has been busy. July, 4 soil inspections, 6 septic inspections, septic permits, 5. And Paul's been in the field pretty much every day. So now that the weather's kind of getting a little bit nicer here, been really busy. So well testing update. So this is the update from May, and sorry that I wasn't here last month. So May, we had 105 samples. Over a third of them were in Lincoln. 4 were in the village of Casco. And all of them in the village of Casco, even though it was only 4, were under 10 parts per million. There was 1 in the new subdivision in 2022. That well was 26 parts per million. 2023, they were 17 parts per million. 2024, 9 parts per million. So in those 2 years from 22 to 24, it went from 26 to 9. So that was one, like I said, it was a $30 charge, so not a lot of people tested. We had 11 coliforms, 1 E. coli, which was less than 1%. We had 11 nitrates. We had 17 total unsafe, so it was like 16.2%. However, over a third of them were in Lincoln, so it wasn't the numbers weren't nicely spread out through the whole county. So well testing for October. So well testing will be October 21st. I have been in very lengthy talks with EPA. EPA has agreed to cover the cost of nitrate, pH, conductivity, alkalinity, hardness, and pH. However, they have to run the bottle through their lab in Chicago because they are going to internally eat the cost. So I've been working with Stevens Point also. So what we're planning on is we'll have the 2 bottles like we normally do. The 1 bottle for nitrates, etc., will go down to Chicago's EPA lab to be tested. And then the other bottle, because they can't do bacteria, so the bacteria and the E. coli will go to Stevens Point lab. So they have eaten all those costs. I don't know, they're really not interested in addresses and stuff like that. So I'm hoping we can just do like bottle 1 through 300 to keep their identity safe. But there is something that was required with them is the chain of command. So the landowners will have to sign off on that. And then me, and then EPA. So this is how they're able to help. They try to figure out a way if they could pay for it through Stevens Point lab, but their higher ups are like, no, we have our own lab. We're going to eat the cost this way. So this is how they're planning to help. All the results will come back to our office. They're going to use the same exact test as Kevin Mazarik's lab in Stevens Point. We've done so many conference calls, the 3 of us. So that's going to be in October. So the only cost that we will have is it's $29 for the bacteria test. I am hoping we have enough money in our account right now to fund that, but we have found when we do free well testing, there's a lot of people who just say, oh, well, you know, it's free. I'm not going to bring my bottle back. So we're going to at least have a $5 or $10 charge so that the landowner has something in it to bring back their bottle. Questions on that?
What was the EPA not testing for? Was it bacteria and
Their
nitrates?
their lab can't test for bacteria. So the bacteria will go to Stevens Point. So that's the one where they do the plus or minus or absent or negative. And then if it are absent or present, if it's present, then they test for E. coli. So that will go to Stevens Point. The rest will be run at the EPA Chicago lab. And then all those results will come to me just like they do with the Stevens Point lab. They're very interested in, you know, what's happening with the nitrates. They're getting a lot of calls directly from citizens in Kewanee. So this is their way of trying to, you know, help and keep our program going because we have the best data pre and post Silurian standards. So
But with these tests running through the EPA, are we not gonna target an area then? We're just gonna put it out. to all
I'm just gonna
county
put it out to the
offices.
entire Kewanee County. Yep.
So we don't try to find a hot spot.
Yep.
You know?
It's just gonna be first come, first serve. We can do up to 300.
Okay.
So, no, yep, we're just gonna start blanketing the county. That's why like in May, that's what we did too. And that's why, I put that caveat that we had over a third in Lincoln. So, it's always gonna skew your data, but with a large sampling and if we can get a good, number of tests throughout the whole county, it'll give us some good numbers again.
The 17 that were unsafe, the nitrates, if they're less than 2, is that considered a safe or is that an unsafe? Because there's kind of like 2 or 3 different categories.
Yeah,
I don't
so
understand.
there was 11 with coliform bacteria. And then 11 with nitrates. So there were 17 total unsafe. There were some of them that were just coliform positive. And then when their nitrates are less than 2, that gives me the indication that it's almost always something to do with their well. So I have been in discussions with those landowners. The first thing we say, especially if they're new, go check your well cap. So a lot of them are well caps. So I kind of tease those out, but they have to test for coliform in order to test for E. coli. So yeah, we tease all those out. They're in the percentage, just because we've always had it that way because it's technically unsafe. But a lot of those we filter out through the well capping personal phone calls.
16% would be 22 divided by 105. Or it would be 17.
17.
17.
Yeah, because some of those, the 22, some of those had coliform and nitrate.
Okay.
So there was 17 total wells out of the 105.
Some of the 11 coliform were just well caps. And as soon as that's determined, that's not considered an unsafe well. That's just some
Right,
that's to be done.
when they do the well cap, they'll have a well driller go out there and do it. So that it's a vermin proof cap, and then what they do is they shock it at that time and then they retest it. So, yeah.
And as far as the one E. coli positive, do you or a well driller work with that well owner to shock it, clean it, and then try retesting it or what?
Yeah, they actually contacted Peninsula Pride and did the water well program. So, they had it, and their nitrates were like 0.2. So I'm not sure where that where that was coming from. So, Travis went out there, we checked, land. There was no spreading in the area. There was a barnyard that we, addressed. And then, they contacted PPF. So, and I haven't heard anything back, so I'm assuming that that it came back good.
But it's not mandatory that they test again in another 30 days, look for the problem, fix it.
No, it's
We don't really
their,
know afterwards if it's ever
Yeah,
fixed, right?
it's their well, so I can't force them to do anything. But yeah, they called PPF and then through the water well program, PPF pays for the well inspection. So they actually do a full inspection of the well and they pay for bottled water at the time and like the cap and stuff like that. So, yep. And they are the ones that have to, so I don't give PPF their name or anything like that until they say, yes, please give me, PPF, and then I give them the information and then they call. So we're not like this mediator between that. If they want to call, here's the information, you can call and get that service.
Well, yeah, no, I would just like to add for the public, if they're listening, that the October 21st well testing, it would be a great opportunity for homeowners to take advantage of this. I don't know if we have the price set yet, but it sounds maybe.
Well, I mean, I don't know, like $5 to
$10.
$10, what do you guys think? I mean, 30, we only got 105 samples, but when we did it free, I was calling Tim and like saying, hey, I have like 30 bottles, come. When they have something in the game, they're more likely to bring it back.
I would be okay with 5, like you said, it's a little skin of the game, it's not a lot. but it helps bring the bottles back. You know, and I think with that price, I would hope we could fill 300 of them again, and keep this going. You know, we're seeing positive results, and which is great,
Yeah.
so.
Mhm. So, yeah, we have enough funds from, the emails and the letters that you sent out to cover that still, so. Absolutely do that.
Are you looking to continue it, that maybe we increase it to 10? I mean, 5 versus 10 isn't that big of a deal, and if that allows you to get another round of testing into the future. But I don't know if you're able to earmark that money in
Yep.
such a fashion or not.
So the donations are all earmarked and they will carry over with the budget. So that is just, that is all donations and it all goes directly to well testing. EPA is hopeful that this is going to like be very smooth and all this. And they think that they can potentially do it again. Maybe just like once a year or maybe twice a year. I don't know those logistics yet. But they have a lot of push to be in Kewaunee County and to, you know, help fix the county and figure out what's going on, so. But yeah, whether it's 5 or 10, it doesn't really matter to me. I just know that 30, a lot of landowners were very unhappy with paying $30.
Davina, thank you very much for working hard. You put a lot of time into everything else, plus well testing and dealing with the EPA. I'm sure isn't easy, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. So we can discuss that too. I'll open it probably September 3rd. Right after the holiday, I will open the well testing. I usually keep it open for about a month and then we do the registration and everything like that. So that's well testing. Other than that, working on the past month shoreline zoning ordinance. We got the 2 petitions to open that up. We received a first review by the DNR. I revised the corrections because our ordinance is so old that by putting in, these 2 petitioners are wanting to put in, sorry, my mind is blank. Duplexes and storage units, and that's not allowed by our shoreline zoning ordinance right now. So the petition was in, however, since our shoreline zoning ordinance was so old, I had to bring up the entire ordinance to standard. So I'm trying to work through that right now. I sent the second set of revisions, or the first set of revisions were back to the DNR on July 17th. However, the person that is in charge of reviewing it also has 4 other programs. So the petitioners aren't too happy, but I have made sure the petitioners know just because their petition to get this in the ordinance does not mean it is going to be adopted. There are a lot of people against what is being petitioned, and there are being petition signatures are being gathered against some of this. So it's a policy decision. It will be, once I have DNR's approval, the ordinance will come to LCC for approval or not approval, and then ultimately to the county board like the floodplain did. So invasive species update. I sent that out to you guys via email yesterday. I know there was questions last month. I'm sorry, I wasn't here. It was been out for a little while. Oh, I should save that on the, sorry. Whatever. Fire me out. I'm done. So we do all of our invasive species under DNR grants through Glacierland. So we co-write the grant. Glacierland gets the money, they do the work because we do not have the time or staff to do the work. So I sent out this. Valerie has been doing an outstanding job. So we have the Clean Boats, Clean Water program. They've been inspecting the watercraft in various lakes in Kewaunee County. They did the drainage or drain campaign, and they're doing Great Lakes invasive species work. So they conducted boat inspections for a total of 259.5 hours in Kewaunee County. They're doing East Alaska Lake and Heidemann right now. Last year we did 2 different lakes, so they're trying to do different lakes. So as the boats come out of the water, they're doing education on saying, hey, these are the invasive species that we don't want. Make sure you clean your boat. This is how you clean your boat so that we don't spread them from lake to lake. She's also doing a snapshot day on August 10th. They had 6 volunteers that came out. Doing a lot with aquatic invasive species. They had another event, or they went to Algoma Shore on the shore event and had an information booth there. Later in August, they're doing early detection monitoring for European frog bit. That is a new invasive species that I believe has been Marinette or north of here that they've been seeing it, and it's been taking over lakes, so they're doing that. They're also continuing to manage Phragmites via herbicide control. And our office helps with those. We send out the landowner permission slips, so they can't go and treat anything unless they have a signed landowner permission. We've been hitting hard Carlton and West Kewanee. We're trying to hit the lake so that it doesn't get into the Great Lakes. We have very, very, very limited funds on this. The amount that we're spraying does not help the amount that's moving in from other counties. But we are doing a lot of that. And then they're applying for a CELCOM grant so that we can hopefully do a kids related day in Kewanee County for invasive species. But those are all the different things that we're doing within, well, Glacierland is doing in our county with our grant money for invasive species. So anyone that calls our office, we just don't have any time for invasive species. We send them right to Glacierland and they do a great job in answering all the questions. Questions?
Back on the shoreland zoning.
Mhm.
Is that gonna be the same as the floodplain zoning where there was FEMA? And if we didn't upgrade to the current standard of floodplain
Yeah.
and we were to end up in a disaster scenario,
Nope. So if the board decides to do nothing, then we just stay at our status quo.
any other programs or funds, grants or anything like that that are tied to the DNR and DNR having a standard here, maybe we have
No.
a standard here?
Our standard currently does not meet DNR standards because there's been upgraded, but ours has been grandfathered in. So a lot of the new language that our ordinance doesn't have is mainly, I think some of the setbacks have been changed. There's new fencing regulations. Not major things. So it's mainly gonna be the petitioner's changes. But I'll have that highlighted once I get through it. So I'll have most of the highlighted changes in there and all of that information. But yes, if we don't do anything, nothing happens, we just stay with our original shoreline zoning ordinance.
Does the shoreline zoning committee take up those changes, vote on them, and then it comes to the LCC?
No, we don't have a committee, we have a board of adjustment, and they only oversee the variances and hearings.
Okay,
So Glenn Zellner used to have a zoning board, and that all got merged with land and water. Whether you know it or not, so
yeah,
yes.
that'll come.
So just like floodplain, it'll come through here, and then if it goes anywhere else, so say it's approved, it will go through public hearing. It'll be posted for 2 weeks, then we have public hearing, first reading at county board, second reading at county board. So the exact same process. But because of the 2 petitions, we had to, for our rules, we had to update or put the petitions through the ordinance. But because ours is old, they're not just gonna let me add the 2 bullets of, houses and duplexes. They're like, no, you're going to upgrade the entire ordinance. So it's a work in progress. It's a lot of work, but I'm getting there, so. Yep. But no FEMA money, no nothing like that, so, yep.
The petitions, if we decided to go and do nothing, then they would not be able to do what they're proposing,
Correct.
asking to do.
Yep. So it's within 1,000 feet of the Lake Michigan or the Bay of Green Bay. They want to put duplexes, they want to put shops in, and right now our ordinance says they can. So they are petitioning to have that added to our ordinance so that they can build.
Ordinance allow, the DNR standard of the ordinance allow that?
We have a special section in our ordinance that makes it more restrictive than the DNRs, I believe. I'd have to look at the full DNR language, but each county kind of has their own, like right now, we prohibit it because we're trying to preserve the shoreland. In Red River, they have their own zoning too, so we don't match all the townships either, so it's very confusing with local jurisdiction and local zoning. But yeah, that'll be a good decision for the board. And I'm very new at the whole shoreline zoning and updating and all this, so I'm learning a lot as I rewrite this ordinance.
And that'll possibly be next month or not ready? Maybe after-
I am not sure. It's completely up to the DNR. So once they get this review, I could have more corrections. Not sure. So I did the first set of revisions, but I don't know how thoroughly he went through that. So I'm waiting on him. And we lost Andrew, who was helping a lot on what he was doing, all our shoreline and zoning stuff. So
Is that something you could share with the board now so we can get familiarized with it, or do you have to wait to get the DNR? You
Jeremy,
know,
I can,
You certainly could share anything with the board that's in draft. I guess the only risk is that whatever we have in draft, if the DNR wants changes to,
so what
it's
I,
wasted work reading through it. If it
yeah,
needs further
what I can
changes.
do is I'll send you the current. I'll send the current. And then I'll send the bulleted points where, because that's not gonna change, with what wants to be added, and I have the variance emails. I gotta find them because they were in Andrew's machine, but I can find them. The variance and then the changes,
It's gonna come from base.
yeah. So I don't know exactly when DNR will have it all back to me, like I said, the petitioners are not, they kind of wanted it to go faster, but we were rewriting an entire ordinance and doing the best that we can, and we're also on DNR schedule, and so I do not know the timeline of when it would actually come before the board. And I want to give you like more than 2 weeks when we do the agenda, so that you'll have hopefully a month with the new one so that you can be familiar with it, et cetera, so. And Travis has to leave in 15 minutes, so
Should we,
can we jump down to the
Yep.
nutrient management discussion?
if there's no questions from, all questions for Davina, maybe let's jump down if that's all right. Nutrient management plan discussion updates, item 8B. Have Travis just kind of give us an update. There were some concerns from the public last month on some of the prevent plant dangers and how that works and within SNAP Plus. So I'll turn it over to Travis. I think he's had a conversation with somebody at the cap.
Yep, so I've spoken about DNR and DEDCAP regarding the fallow fields. The fallow fields that were not planted, they may receive manure applications if a crop will be planted with a fall harvested forage, or, as long as they're taking something off, they were allowed to put something on as far as nutrients. Fields being planted non-harvestable crop or winter terminated crop may not receive manure, as there is no crop being harvested to take up those nutrients. Carryover seed and weeds did utilize some of the limited amounts of the nutrients. So these were turned back into the soil. So some of the nutrients were taken up by the plants. So the roots captured some of the nutrients that were applied to the fields in fall. Those were turned back in, so you have a green manure. Those fields that did receive an application, the manure that was applied on there came from the leachate ponds that they had, so majority of it was water. So limited nutrients. That application was made, planted within, I believe they planted it within a week or two. And then They are able to put more manure down, but that's gonna be determined by like tissue samples or further sampling to decide whether more nutrients are needed. In SNAP Plus, it will be reflected. It will carry over second manure credits, third manure credits, third year manure credits. So all that is accounted for in SNAP Plus. There's no way to go back and show that, yeah, those nutrients are gone. SNAP Plus will always account for those as long as they're in there. So as long as they were applied in fall, accounted for in the nutrient management plan, those will carry through to the next crop in next year. So they are being accounted for. The hopes that whatever was planted after, late summer crop, the roots will be able to go down, pull some of those nutrients that have beached below the root zones and pull those back up to the surface, harvest that crop off, be turned back in or harvested again in spring. So that way those nutrients are just like completely, washed down. That's where it's a little lost.
I think that's a big thing is a lot of people see that there's multiple applications or split applications, which are also required in some of the fields with the Silurian Dolomite. So they're doing a half, a lower rate and then coming back so many days later per Silurian standards. But there's a lot of leachate and the water pits as they describe them. So they're not commingling with the manure. It's coming off the leachate pad, mixing with a lot of water. So the nutrient values are very low. So they can do higher applications of them and they can do multiple applications. I know that the public had concerns with reapplying on 2 fields, I believe is what it was. So.
Yeah, there were a couple of fields that have been applied on. I did document those fields. I spoke with the farming agronomist. I spoke with DACCAP, kind of went through how all that worked. And there is really nothing in 243, NR 151, or even the NRCS 590 nutrient management standard that specifically addresses fallow field. So as long as it's being accounted for, they're not applying over the X amount of units of N or the crop need. And as long as those nutrients are being accounted for in the plan, they are able to do that.
Will they discuss that on the SOC committee?
So yes,
So SOC, Travis is on the standard oversight committee or SOC committee for the new nutrient management plan. New NMP 590, because the nation or national standard upgraded, so now Wisconsin has to meet the national one. So Travis would have to be on that committee. So that's what I mean by SOC. I think you have one on Thursday.
yeah, so that will be added to it because there is nothing in the current standard that addresses it. And some of the other members on the team thought it would be important to at least have the discussion and see if the team wanted to include it.
Do you have any questions for Travis?
So if a cornfield, let's say we put manure down in the fall of 23, and it was intended to go to corn, didn't go to corn, it remained fallow because of not needing additional forage needs. But let's say that manure application in the fall of 23 put 85 units of N. And it wasn't limited by FOS, it was a normal, there's no other management criteria that go along with it. And that corn crop requires 190, or could use 190 units of N. Nothing else got applied. Can the next 85 units of nitrogen in the form of manure come in the fall of 24? Because we haven't over applied nitrogen. I just basically cut it in half as an example.
So as long as there would be, so did you plant anything?
No, these would be completely fallow acres,
100% fallow?
100% fallow. They weren't intended to be fallow.
Yeah.
But
So the way it was described to me is that it would have to wait till the spring. Till spring to apply that manure because it was a fallow field and nothing harvested. And those were some of the inconsistencies between the two, and that's why they were talking about bringing it up at SOC
Sure.
to see, because there really is nothing that truly addresses it in language. DNR, what they told me would have been no. So if you applied in fall, fallow field, and then wanted to put a cover crop in, non-harvestable, then you would not be able to apply it fall
Even,
or a late summer.
even if it's an overwintering cover crop?
If it overwintered, yes.
And you could.
If it was a fall terminated, then no.
Then,
So overwinter
Overwintering.
cereal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gray areas, so.
Well, I mean, for sure, it's not been an easy,
Right.
it's an, and at the end of the day, it's an act of God. No one applied manure in the fall of 2023 intending to leave those acres open for the
Right.
24 cropping season. These were, means beyond any human's control.
Yeah, and I believe they do have or had some testing done at the test plots, the UW in Arlington, that does show that some of those fallow fields with the weed seed and then also the seed that was left over from the previous crop, through harvest, that those roots did either hold or draw up some of those nutrients. So it's not like they were 100% lost. It wasn't a barren. There were green growing crops in that field that did utilize some of those nutrients. So it's not 100% lost.
So winter cereal planted this fall that would overwinter with a living root could receive another manure application this fall. Obviously, we need to take next year's total nitrogen into consideration. But in that example I gave, where if it was half the nitrogen in the form of manure for that next year's crop, could be justified by a fall application with a winter cover crop.
Yeah. And I would run that by DNR.
I was gonna say, run that by DNR.
They did say that they would like to see a harvest. Whether it has to be or they would like to, that's another gray area that I don't know where that specifically says that in writing.
And we can't speak for the 243.
Yeah.
Cable road.
So I would just confirm with them, but I know it doesn't say it in 590. But from what DACAP said and what DNR said, specifically DNR, is that they would like to see something harvested. Now, whether we would like to see it is law or not is.
Thanks for the update on that,
Thanks for
Travis.
coming in this morning for that. You can talk about it, please. Thanks. We'll see more.
We'll move back up to cooperating agency reports. There's nobody here from NRCS today. So we'll-
Well, since Travis was talking about Arlington, there is an Arlington Agronomy Field Day on August 28th. So if anyone's interested in attending, I just got the notice for it yesterday and it said the registration deadline was August 15th. So, yeah, you can definitely, I would say, probably still register as a large outdoor event. So I think they have room for you if you'd like to go. We have a lot of stuff going on coming up here. It's a busy time of the year with crops and all of that good stuff. So corn dry down for Kiwani Brown and Door is set for September 16th and 30th. It was just like planting corn. It's just been weird this year. It's been hard to figure out when we can do this event. So we're holding them 2 weeks apart and hope we can get the majority of the people who at least got corn in at a reasonable amount of time. We know that there is a spread of it 5 to 6 weeks between the first field planted and the last field planted, if the last field was planted at all. So we're going to do our best to at least try to accommodate as many people as we can with that event. So
Are those called at Route Creek again?
first one's going to be at Royal Creek, and then the second one, because of logistics and we are very, very short staffed, I think it's just going to be Chris and me on the 30th. We're going to be at Olson's, Olson Family Farm on the 30th. So just a logistical thing. Door County Co-op has been a wonderful host for us, and we don't want to disregard that wonderful relationship, but just for logistical reasons, we had to move it for this year. But We'll probably be back next year. We have an event, yeah,
Is Ragsburg here in Luxembourg?
Luxembourg, yeah.
Luxembourg.
And then for the 30th also, Rail Creek is going to chop samples and we'll pick them up and take them to the lab because we got to come right through Luxembourg anyway. So if someone can't get up to Olson's and they just want to drop them off at Rail Creek, they can chop them for here as well. So trying to accommodate again as much as possible. And that has not been announced yet. You guys are actually the first ones to know, but that'll be going out in our email here today, I hope. Clean Sweep. This is not an extension program, but we're a cooperator. Clean Sweep is September 7th here at the fairgrounds. It's 8 to noon. They will take agriculture, chemicals, pesticides, whatever. But check with Tracy first and you need to register. So you get a time slot to come and bring in your stuff. So if you have a question about what they can take, please check with Tracy at Emergency Management first before you bring something in that they will not take. You don't want to have to take it back home. And then if anybody, again, Revolution Plastics is still, I was at the reload or whatever you call that thing, the collection center where the landfill is 2 weeks ago, and I saw a farmer bring in a huge load of ag plastics. And just for a reminder, ag plastics can be collected for free from our Revolution Plastics, and they actually have a really good app now that works great. And pickup is a lot more timely than it used to be because I know that was a major problem for a while. I saw bins overflowing all over the place, and it was just a problem. But it is working much better now. I'm sure you guys can attest. The pickup is a lot better now. So just remind people that if they're taking garbage to be, or that ag plastic to be landfilled, they can have that picked up for free. There is an area nutrient management program coming up on September 10th in Appleton. That will be online and virtual on September 5th. So if you can't make it to Appleton, that's available on September 5th. And there is also a soybean field day on September 4th. That one's going to actually focus a little bit on forage soybeans. That one is on the west side of Green Bay. So again, all of this information will be in the email that goes out today. Agronomy Field Day, just for your reference, again, Badger Crop Connect is the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of the month. And so the next one will be on August 28th. Badger Dairy Insight is the 3rd Tuesday of the month, which is today. So there's one today. We're talking about fiber. And the last thing that I have is Kevin Erb is planning a hauling safety meeting, kind of address things the sheriff has seen that maybe we need to improve on. It's going to be something that's probably going to be sort of short notice, so that notice will probably come out from the same email or text message that comes out and announces Peninsula Pride meetings and all of that. So keep an eye out for that, but we'll try to get it out to as many people as possible. It's just going to be talking about remembering to properly put up your signage on roadside hauling locations. If you're pulling over, can't get into the fields, God forbid, we have a wet fall where people can't get into the fields with trucks. We've had situations where they're really, really good about manure hauling and putting up signage, but when we're taking corn silage out of the fields and having trucks parked on the side of the road, not as good. Tarping is a big, big problem. Not tarping is a big problem. Sheriff has had so many complaints about that. So if your truck's got a tarp on it, use it. Corn silage, a lot of it ends up on the road. So remember that little tip, because I can guarantee you that will come up in that meeting. So that one will be announced when they're ready for it. Hopefully here in the next couple of weeks, they'll have something ready to go. More of a spur of the moment. I'll send all of this to you. Perfect. So a lot going on. And then just keep an eye out for the email that's coming out today.
Questions for Erica? Hearing none, we don't have any state legislature, nothing with Brian, USDA,
Nope.
but I mentioned that'll be coming up in December.
Yeah, I'm assuming that'll start coming up because he'll do corn, or he'll do probably the turkey and the deer damage soon. So as those complaints come in.
Other agency organization reports, anything new at FSA. We'll move on to other matters to discuss. I always keep the conservation updates on there, throughout the summer. There's things going on. Pencil Pride has their conservation conversations. So I don't know, Nick, if they had one in the last month.
We had Tom Kilser out who talked about emergency forages and, winter cereals, winter triticale. He presented at UWGB and then did a, field day at, Ebert's looking at, different crops and soil pit there. I believe tomorrow is, another event at Himes where they're looking at, spot and spray and then some drone technology. And I believe, don't hold me to the times, it's done to check the Facebook page, but I think at 3 o'clock start time, it might be like a 3 till 5 where they do demonstrations. Then a 5 o'clock might be the 5 till 6 is like a picnic, cookout, whatever it would be. And then they're going to repeat the demonstrations. So that way, if farms can make it for one half or the other, it'll be kind of a repeat. So that'll be going on at Himes tomorrow during the evening.
Yeah, and Travis already talked about Rock Fest, so I said we had speakers from Dave Hart, DACAP, DNR, WAPAC, Peninsula Pride, so it was a really great day. It was really fun.
We can move on to grants. I know it came up last month, question from the public about hiring your grant writer. And I put it on here. I wanted to have Davina touch base on what she does for grants for this committee. And I'll turn it over to her and let her fill you in on how she gets the grants.
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of have our list of grants that come out in emails, especially through Wisconsin Land and Water, that we could potentially apply for. With the well testing ones, the coastal management, we are not eligible for that anymore because that's only 2 years. We do all the grants with DNR, with invasive species through glacier land. So we do those yearly. We do all the nutrient management farmer education grants, the staffing grants. I'm always looking for the well testing ones, which I have so many contacts and phone calls and that with DNR and EPA, where now EPA is just gonna start covering some of those costs. So we're always looking for different ways of, or different grants that we're eligible for. And I don't know, I mean, I'm not gonna speak for other committees or departments, but ultimately not up to me if we're hiring a grant. Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
I would just add for the board and committee's consideration that in my experience, having a dedicated grant writer whose sole purpose is to write grants isn't as effective as having skilled staff who do the work, who can also write, like Davina's doing. So a lot of times isolating that responsibility with a great writer still requires a whole lot of, understanding of the programming and working with the other staff to put the things in the grant that need to be there. So a lot of times you can come out ahead by adding staff capacity that writes grants when grants are available, but also can do other work and is qualified and skilled to do that.
Thank you. Davina, do you struggle sometimes? I mean, because grants are a challenge, the wording, missing a word, or do you feel that when you apply for one, your odds are you're going to get?
Oh, really good odds. And a lot of them are because we are kind of applying for the same type of grant in different grant avenues. There's a lot of cutting and pasting. And before I even apply for a grant, I'm already calling DNR or coastal management or the entity to make sure we even qualify. So I'm not going to write a grant if it's not even qualified for what funding it is. So a lot of that work, like Jeremy said, it's easier for me to do it than me to relay it to someone else at this point. So a lot of it's cut and paste, and that's how the coastal management ones work for years. They just kind of cut and paste and change things. And that's the same information I sent to DNR and EPA to try to find funding for the well testing. The invasive species, yeah, there's probably more grants out there, but our office does not have the expertise in invasive species. Kate did a lot of work with that when we had her on, but we lost that position. And then that's where we went to Glacierland, where they have the invasive species coordinator who has all that expertise, so.
Jeremy did. Ask him a
Yeah,
question.
go ahead. Yeah.
Jeremy, at your department head meeting, have you asked or had that ability to ask your other department heads yet? Because I know in our last meeting, it got brought by Chairman Olson. He said, if we're gonna bring this forward, it should come from one of the committees, Land and Water. But we don't have that ability to sit in your department head meetings and ask that question of the other department heads. Been able to do that yet if they're comfortable doing their own grants?
That question hasn't come up yet. We have a department head meeting next week.
Okay.
So I can definitely bring it there and see. I mean, my recommendation to them would be the same, and I know I've offered to some of the other departments that I can support, helping them write too, if they're interested and if they need that. So, but yeah, we'll definitely bring that up very shortly. Thanks for the suggestion.
And on the same token, do you know, or can you find out, are a lot of departments utilizing grants, or is there more that departments could utilize in the future? I know you're fairly new here too, so I don't.
Yeah, and I don't know how often their departments are passing on grants that they think this might fit, but they don't have the capacity to write it. That's the piece I don't know. I do know that we're widely in many departments are using grant funding to deliver services. Parks, Sheriff's Department, Human Services, Health Department come all off the top of my head that they are partially funded by grants.
And even though we don't apply for the grant, I was just on a conference call yesterday with Maureen Muldoon, she's done so much work in the Silurian. So I'm on a research team with her and Door County. She received preliminary funding from coastal management to do some groundwater mapping, or modeling. And that's where that kicked off from the whole Casco thing. So we had the first pre-meeting yesterday. So even though I'm not directly applying for grants, we are working with the professionals and the researchers like Maureen who do the research. And then we do the support stuff on the side. So, yeah, so we do a lot of that too.
Any other questions on that? All right, if hearing none, we can move on to scheduling of future meetings, committee meetings. I know we always were, what was it, second week, last couple months?
Yeah, we haven't put anything God, I'm just done. My head is too many places. So if the second Tuesday is September 10th and then October 8th.
September 10th works, we could pencil that one in. Just to get back, I know it's only gonna be in 2 weeks, but just to get back to our normal schedule.
Yeah,
Until September 10th and then you said October 8th.
yes.
Chairman's wrap-up comments, I have nothing for that today, so with that, we'll look for a motion for adjournment.
Aaron, will you do me a favor, please? I'm sorry, I should have talked before. Will you talk about the event that I went to this weekend also that you were at, that by Derek's Farm? What a wonderful thing that was. I should have said something.
Oh.
People don't understand what that is and how many non-farmers.
Yeah, so this weekend, Kewanee County Dairy Promotions, I have.
Yeah.
Kewanee County Dairy Promotions put on an event they do yearly called Farm Meet Sport Gala. And that is an opportunity for, we have 20 tables there that dairy farmers or industry people in the agriculture industry buy a table, and then they invite the non-farm public to the event. And at that event, we have speakers and we do tours on today's modern agriculture and things that happen on the land, some small things inside the barns at the dairy site. So this year, Tim was at the event, Jeremy was invited to the event, Joanne Lazansky and Chair Dan Olson joined some of us at our tables at this event. And it's just kind of a educational process, a small educational piece that was held at Deer Run Dairy about some of the things we're doing on the land. The tour was what, maybe 45 minutes. It's just a very quick snapshot of the things that our farmers are doing today. And then after that, there is a prime rib meal with a speaker. This year's speaker was Jamie Patton from UW Extension, speaking on soil health. Yeah, she does.
USDA now.
Or USDA,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know, she's always been extension, so.
Right. She did a phenomenal job, and I think she did a great job, and Tim or Jeremy could talk to this, of talking to the people in the crowd that don't know a lot maybe about soil health and soil. So she came across and was able to, how we feed microbes of the soil. But it's a great event to get the non-farming public out to the farm once a year, put on by Kewaunee County Dairy Promotion. And this year, we had quite a few members from our county board join us. So it was a great event. So I don't know, Tim or Jeremy, if you have anything you want to say. I know you were both there.
I did learn a lot. I mean, I knew that, nutrient management plans were required and some of those kind of back end things, from discussions with Davina and the team, but, I learned a lot more about why and what the objectives are and things like that, and how, the cover crops are helping with nutrient retention and things like that. So it was very informative event.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that. I know a little bit more about agriculture probably than Jeremy does, but the speaker was vibrant. She loves what she does. She's in a trench. They dig a trench out in the yard and they show roots and different types of roots and how important it is. And people think, a root goes down this far and anything beyond that is wasted. She's talking about how some of these roots go down 4 feet, 5 feet. So nutrients are constantly being used up, and she was so excited about it. The food was wonderful. The kids that were there bussing the tables from the farm community, everybody that donated their time. A wonderful, wonderful event. I mean, if anybody has an opportunity next year to go to that, great thing. Thanks for having it on the farm. It was wonderful.
Great event, and a lot of hard work put into it by volunteers that do it through Kewaunee Dairy Promotion. So if anybody ever asks anybody from the public to come, please join us. It's about a 3-hour event from 5 p.m. to about 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m. But thank you guys for joining us. Any other things that we need to cover here? If none, we'll look for an adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Tim,
Second.
second by Nick, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries, adjourns at 9:12.